everyone. Welcome to the Bay State Golf Podcast. I am your host, Sean Melia. Today's topic is 9 bang for your buck golf courses south of Boston. Before we get to those 9 golf courses, just want to give you a quick reminder to please subscribe to this podcast, review it, give it 5 stars or whatever you are able to do on your podcatcher. This podcast is also on YouTube, and this particular one, there will be some photos with my words, just to show a little bit of each golf course, because as usual, I only recommend golf courses that I have played on my quest. If you are looking for everything in one neat and tidy place, you can subscribe to my Friday morning newsletter. You can find it at baystategolf.beehive. That's BEEHIIV.com. If you subscribe to that, you'll get all my writing, Instagram stuff, podcasts from each week. I always add a little essay or some thoughts at the top of it, and I also always include some favorites from my week, things I've read, things I've eaten, things I've drank, things I've watched and listened to, podcasts, music, TV shows, movies, whatever. So that's a good place to just catch everything in one place. And like I said, you can also find me on Instagram, baystate_golf, if you're looking for just a slew of kind of Bay State golf stuff and information about the different courses I've played. I'm very much looking forward to getting out and playing golf myself, which is kind of part of the reason I chose this topic. I got a message from a follower last week just basically asking the question, where can I, find a list or find a bunch of places that are worth my time and money to go play? Put out a question on Instagram, and I got a ton of responses, so I'm going to kind of collect a bunch of things and put them on my website, and you can go and find them there. But I kind of made my own list before I even asked the question, and I was kind of relieved to see a lot of my picks coming through in the responses from folks as well. So the other thing I found was a lot of these were south of the city. There's a bunch of other ones all over the state, but as far as these 9, they are south. I thought also that was maybe a nice thing to do this time of year. It is the middle of February. We're slowly creeping towards getting some good weather that you can go and actually feel like you're playing golf. And, middle of March. So we're about maybe 4 weeks away, fingers crossed, if things go well. I've looked at the forecast, and I'm seeing some 60s in the future forecast, which is feeling like we are getting very close. These courses, obviously, as the winter kind of goes away, will be the ones that maybe are open already, so you could go check them out. And also will typically are the ones that open a little earlier in the season just because of where they are in the state. So let's get to 9 golf courses that will give you a great bang for your buck. I think value is something that is, it's changed a lot in golf. Golf is getting more and more expensive, which is hard to believe, but that's just the way it is. It's hard to find places that might charge you less than $50 to play. It's feeling like 70 to 80 is maybe the price that most golf courses are. And, so I tried to find places that were under 70 for the most part. Maybe you're going to pay a little bit more. I tried to just look at walking. So if you're someone who likes to ride a cart, you might have to tack on. Some places are $12. Some places are $22. Some places include the cart in the prices that I'm giving. But that's one thing for me, value-wise, is, I think if you're paying $60 right now, that's a pretty good deal to play a place that has some things that are interesting and engaging. And that's the other part for me. So value is, $60 to $80. As once you get above $80, it's starting to feel like, all right, I'm paying a good amount of money. I should have a good place. $90, And then $100 is maybe that final magic number. Once you get to 3 digits, it feels like you better be getting a pretty great day on the golf course. But $60, $70, there's some things you might have to look the other way from. You might be okay with, the bunkers not being in great shape or the greens being a little bit shaggy. That's kind of the way it is. And then you're going to find places that are very good for $60, and especially as you get a little bit farther away from Boston, maybe out in the west of the state, and away from kind of those big areas where places are charging maybe $100 to play. So another thing for me as far as value is the course interesting? Is it engaging? Cheap and boring courses are not good value in my mind. There's plenty of those around. You can check out my dive bar list on baystategolf.com, where I've tiered everything by kind of restaurants, and dive bars are the lowest of the low. They're going to be cheap. They're going to be really scruffy, just like a dive bar. You know what you're getting when you go in there. You might get a few little things that are interesting or you kind of hope or wish would be a little bit better. But that's not what we're doing here. We're looking for places that have a little bit higher value than just cheap and boring. Conditions matter, I think, for this. You want to pay to at least play a place where you feel like they're making an effort. In my case, some of these courses I've only played once. And so, I hear from folks who might say one particular golf course is never in good shape, or golf courses over the last 2 or 3 years since I've played them have gotten markedly worse than they were when I played it. Or they've gotten better, right? So that's a tough one to balance all the time. But I think for me, conditions are somewhat important to the value. You want greens you can putt. You want good lies and fairways. You want bunkers that aren't just dirt and those types of things. So that's another piece for me that I think is important as far as what I'm looking for in value. And then this is probably the toughest one, but am I going to be able to play in some sort of quick pace? And I think, sadly, at this point on the weekends, man, it's really hard to play places quickly. They're just so popular. I had some people on Instagram just tell me, like, I'm not telling you a golf course that I think is a good value because I'm afraid it's going to become a place where people go. I'm not sure I have that kind of power, but I do understand kind of wanting to keep places, maybe secret's the wrong word, but just a little bit quieter and to yourself. So pace of play matters. I'm typically, when I can, a weekday golfer, and I don't know the pace of play of all of these places, and I'm imagining most of them are going to be slow because they are public golf courses that offer good value. So that's a trickier one to balance. Golf takes 5 hours nowadays. If it takes less than that, it's a kind of a win, which is a shame, but that's the way it goes. So I'm looking at, can I walk it? Is the course interesting? Does it have some engaging things to it? It's obviously going to have some things that drive me nuts. That's part of this too. These aren't the creme de la creme as far as golf courses. Conditions matter a little bit as far as maybe word of mouth and places that just kind of keep it up and keep things nice. And then pace of play, but sometimes that's just luck if you're playing on a weekend. So let's get into it. Let's start in no particular order here. I'm going to start with a place that I tell a lot of people to play. It was the first one that came to my mind, and that's DW Field in Brockton, Mass. A muni. Rates right now, I'm going to give you the rates that they have on their websites. These might change. Again, it's February. Some of them are listed as 2024 rates. I don't know if that means that they're going to change once the season kind of starts. Some places are a little better about giving seasonal ratings. So I'm just going to give you the numbers that I found on the websites as I dug around a little bit. So DW Field is $45 to walk on the weekday, $55 to walk on the weekends. Some of the most interesting greens you're going to find maybe in public golf. Just really good. When I played it a few years ago, the greens were in exceptional shape. I played in maybe August. So, that's usually a good window of time for the greens to get good, but they can also be if you get a lot of rain in the summer, kind of tough. But the course overall was in good shape. Has some really good holes. I've posted a few times over the years about the fourth hole, which is just an outstanding little par 4. Green is wild and just a really good hole. And then another one I like a lot is the 13th, super hard par 4, longest hole in the course. Really like that one too. You're gonna get some good holes. It's not super challenging, but you can find yourself in trouble. The greens are the main defense, and I'd highly recommend checking out DW Field at some point during the 2024 season. Next up, Acushnet River Valley. From what I can see on the website, it is $48 to play on the weekday. If you're a resident, it's $37, and then it's $53 on the weekends. And if you're a resident, it's still $37. So if you live in Acushnet, you're paying $37 to walk 18 holes. No frills golf course as far as it's a kind of a trailer. I've talked about this in my rankings, but kind of a simple trailer. When I played on a Monday afternoon, I believe it was, couldn't get any food. Everything was kind of closed up. There is a range. There's a massive putting green in very good shape. Just a solid golf course as far as the conditions. Both nines are really good. The back nine has kind of a wonky stretch from 13 through 16 where you're just playing a different type of golf. It's through some marshland. It's very flat, not a lot of woods. So we'll kind of rattle your cage a little bit as far as just some different course features. But it also kind of shakes things up a little bit, which I appreciate. And so Acushnet Valley, very good golf course. Go check it out. This one came up a lot in my mentions as well when I asked for folks' thoughts. So Acushnet River Valley, go check it out. Next up, going to the Cape, to Yarmouth, Bass River, $57 to walk, $67 on the weekends to walk. I just really enjoyed my walk at Bass River when I got to play. Some really cool holes. The opening few are pretty great. First hole is a little short, drivable par 4, but holy hell, the green is, if you miss the green, you're going to have a tough time maybe even making par if you're in the wrong spot. Just a big fall off on the right. Second hole, really tricky tee shot, and then you get this awesome approach shot down a hill into this amphitheater style green setting. Really, really good. Coming home, 16, 17, 18, especially 16 and 17, man, if they could just, I don't know if they can, but blow out some of the trees, you can get a view of the Bass River. The 18th is a closing par 3, but it's probably the best closing par 3 I've played on my quest. You've got the river to your left. You're kind of playing over it, and it's just a really lovely setting. Low key, little small clubhouse, putting green on the water, Donald Ross design. There are some flat, kind of not super interesting holes, but for the most part, really liked it. Thought it was good. One of those places that's maybe not going to be in the greatest shape all the time, but Bass River, $57 to walk on the weekday, $67 on the weekend is pretty primo. Staying down in the Cape adjacent area, we're going to go to PCO Brook, which is in Lakeville, Mass. PCO Brook is $42 to walk on the weekdays, $57 to walk on the weekends. Another really great option down in that area. I played PCO Brook on a 36-hole day. I played Lakeville in the morning. People hate that place. It's gotten a lot of hate on my in my mentions. I think it's gone downhill since I played it. I thought it was okay. I also played it in April on a quiet morning where I played it in no time. But back to PCO Brook, a nice setting, great driving range, great clubhouse, $42 to walk on the weekday, $57 on the weekends. You got some really good holes. It's going to test your game. It's a challenging golf course overall, and it was in really good shape when I played it in early in the season. I think it was April or May. So PCO Brook, I would suggest going and checking it out. If you live down in that area, it's not a terribly long drive. If you live south of the city, as well, just on the southern tip of the city, it's not that long of a drive to get down to Lakeville, and just a worthwhile place to go check out for a pretty good price, to play a good bulky golf course with some really strong. I think the finish is really strong. 15, 16, 17 in particular. 18 is a bananas par 5. I can't really even explain it. And it's like a station to station hole. But if you really want to try to cut a big old corner with some trees, you can try it. But nice setting the clubhouse over the 18th green. So PCO Brook, pretty good little spot to check out in Lakeville, Mass. Country Club of Halifax is next. It's in Halifax, Mass. Kind of a funny part of the state, to be honest. You're going to probably take Route 24 to get down. And it's just in a little odd remote spot. And I really liked Country Club Halifax. There's no rates posted online, but from what I've heard and people mentioning it, I'm just going to throw it on here as a value pick as well. It's not expensive from what I remember playing. Some very strong holes. Also, it's one of those where you get some funky holes or some overgrown areas. When we played it, it was pretty wet. It's kind of a flat-ish golf course, so a lot of will hold some water. I think I played this in July of 2021 when we had that huge 4th of July rainstorm, and then so that week was just kind of wet anyway. So, if it rains, you're going to get some soggy spots at Halifax. Some really strong par 4s, especially on the front. You can score there. The back is lovely, and it's a good little test. Tree lined, relatively flat, pretty good greens, and go check out Country Club of Halifax in Halifax, Mass. We're gonna go to Plymouth for my next two, and I think this might be a good place to just mention I am really focusing on 18-hole championship golf courses. So Souther's Marsh came up as another Plymouth delight, but it's I don't even know what par it is, but it's got a slew of par 3s. You play over cranberry bogs. Very, very cool setting. Go support them. Souther's Marsh is wonderful. I didn't put it on here because I'm looking at courses that are 18 holes. You're looking for par 70 or higher, and you want to go and play a full round of golf. But Souther's Marsh is delightful. And if you're in Plymouth and you play one of the next two courses I name, and you want, an emergency 18, you can tack one on a long summer evening and hang out on that lovely deck out at Souther's Marsh. But as far as 18-hole golf courses in Plymouth, there's a bunch of them. Crosswinds was a rousing selection in my Instagram mentions. $67 to walk the golf course, $89 on the weekends. Now, this is one that has a little asterisk on the rates. It says 2024 rates, but then the asterisk says rates could change. So I'm not sure if this goes up, but this is what I could find as of right now. It's one of those popular winter golf spots as well. They have 27 holes. None of them are bad. You can play any of them. You could play all 3 of them and have a really great day. That's how I took in Crosswinds. I played it early in the quest. I hadn't been there in years. Really liked it. Played all 27 in a day. Got a rainy start. Don't have a lot of great pictures of Crosswinds just because of that. I kept my phone away, and I was still pretty new at all this and didn't realize that I'd want to have a bunch of pictures and video and all that stuff. So Crosswinds in Plymouth. This was just one that a lot of people picked. A lot of people believe it's maybe the best value in the state, maybe even in New England. It's always in good shape. considering you have options like Waverly and Pine Hills, this one is really good. So Crosswinds, go check it out if you haven't yet. And then another one in Plymouth, which is like the little brother in the whole span of 18-hole golf courses in Plymouth, is Atlantic. It is not close to any of the other golf courses, because Waverly, Crosswinds, and Pine Hills are all kind of clustered in one area. Atlantic is, you got to drive a little bit through Plymouth. You realize how big Plymouth is when you have to get to Atlantic. Atlantic is $58 on the weekday, $68 on the weekend. Just a really solid golf course. It's not going to blow you away. The 8th hole there is maybe one of my favorite holes I've played in Plymouth, especially public-wise. It sticks in my mind. I think about it. It pops into my mind a lot, just as far as like a cool, big dogleg right, really good driving hole, really tough second shot to a long, skinny green that's raised up. You might have to hit a mid-iron into it. Just awesome. You got to drive the ball well there. A couple holes where you can let it rip, but you got to be pretty accurate. Some awkward tee shots as well. But Atlantic, if you're looking for Plymouth golf and you realize, man, everything else is booked up, Atlantic is a really good option. So go check that one out. 58 on the weekday, 68 on the weekend to walk Atlantic. We're going to get away from the Cape, away from Plymouth, away from the South Shore. For our next one, we're going to go to Blissful Meadows in Uxbridge, Mass. $42 to play on the weekdays, $60 on the weekends. So, this is a little bit farther afield than some of these other ones I've mentioned that are south of the city. Uxbridge is a little bit west more than south, and it'll probably show up on another list I make. I really enjoyed playing Blissful Meadows. The greens were the biggest surprise to me. I thought they were outstanding. They were in good shape. They were interesting. They were different. Sometimes you get to these golf courses and all the greens are circular or ovals, and you got kind of the edges. You got bunkers right, left, and that's kind of it. Blissful Meadows had some different kind of shots you had to hit in, different places you could miss or couldn't miss, some tough greens to two-putt. Some were set in the ground, some you're hitting uphill to them, some you're hitting downhill to. Just a really good mix. This is kind of where the value comes into play, where you're always going to have something that maybe drives you a little bit nuts when you're paying $42 for a weekday round or $60 on the weekends. There's a couple tee shots that they need to remove some trees. They're just a little bit tricky, or even approach shots. There's the par 3, I think it's the third, which you're hitting between two trees like you're a field goal kicker. And the par 5, I think it's the second hole, also has some trees that are just kind of guarding the layup in a way that they don't have to. But for the most part, I really like Blissful Meadows. The front and back are very different, and the back 9 runs kind of through some rollicking land, 2 really good par 3s on the back. A little bit of history there too, with some signage and kind of some mines or mills that were in there back in the day, and just a few very good holes, especially on the back. Just you get to the 10th hole and you hit your tee shot and you realize, holy cow, this is going to feel a lot different than the front, which is kind of runs through a little bit of flatter land. So go check out Blissful Meadows. I know that people are going to maybe shout out Kettle Brook out in that area as well. I just didn't have it on this list. I think just because I didn't write it down, and it felt like it was, I didn't even look at the rates. It might be a little bit more than what I'd want to pay as far as value. Great golf course. I also finished that golf course in the dark. I'd love to go back and play it properly when it's not 40 degrees and at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon in November. But Kettlebrook is great as well out in that area. But Blissful Meadows, Uxbridge Match, $42 to walk on the weekdays, $60 on the weekends. And the last one, Cape Cod Country Club, back kind of close to the Cape here, Falmouth, Mass. Monday through Thursday, you can play 18 holes for $52. You can play 9 holes for $35. And then Fridays, Sundays, and holidays, it's $68, $48 after 2:30, the twilight rate. Another, nice thing, especially as the days start to get long, is just taking advantage of some twilight rates. There are a lot of good ones out there. You're going to save maybe $20 if you get it on the right day. You can get a whole round in, especially, May, June, early July, when the days are pretty long and you might be getting out of work and just want to squeeze in quick 18 holes. Cape Cod Country Club is just golden age architecture, a delight to play. I have played it twice. I would not want to see that place with the greens humming. It is a golf course that I see for different qualifiers every summer, and I avoid it because it is a kind of a tricky golf course if you are a little bit nervy around greens or with a putter in your hand, which is exactly me. So, just to give you a sense of what it's like, some drivable par fours though. You could, if you're dialed, you can score at Cape Cod Country Club. It's a sneaky harder walk than I think you would think it is. And that's not because it's hilly. It's because there's a lot of long walks from greens to tees, whether it's just the routing has shifted or they've had to add yards, but a few long walks that I didn't realize the first time I played it, but then I played it last year. And it kind of hit me like, oh, there's some long walks here. This is not an easy walk. And I would still walk it. It's better than riding. The other thing about Cape Cod Country Club, as far as value, is you do feel like you are essentially paying to play 14 or 15 holes. It felt to me like the last 3 holes, 16, which is a converted par 4 to a par 3 because there were houses built near the green years ago, and drives off the tee box were in the yard and probably bothering the people who own the houses. So they moved the tee up and just made it a par 3, which is a shame. And then 17 and 18 are both short par 4s that big hitters can drive. Even just medium hitters can. It's like you hit driver and then maybe you have a 30-yard little pitch shot. So the round falls a touch flat at the end, but the first 14, 15 holes, I'd say, I guess 15 holes, because the par 3 15th up the hill is kind of outstanding. Not kind of outstanding. It is outstanding. It's a really good hole. And the Volcano 14th is also great. Those holes 1 through 15 are strong. And for $52 on the weekdays and $68 on the weekends, that's another really good place to go play. I'm going to suggest you tack on a visit to Katuitt after that, another course that's not on this list because it's not a full 18 holes. It is a bunch of par 3s with 1 par 4 mixed in. Really fun little golf course that I've played a few times. You could tack that on at the end. Heck, you could go play it beforehand as a little warm-up and then go play Cape Cod Country Club. But that's the 9th one, Cape Cod Country Club. So let's just go through these quickly before we wrap up so you can have them all. You can get your pen out, write them down. DW Field, Brockton, Mass. $45 to walk on the weekdays, $55 on the weekends. Acushnet River Valley, $48 on weekdays, $53 on weekends. If you are a resident, you pay $37 no matter what. Incredible deal. Bass River, Yarmouth, Mass. $57 on the weekdays, $67 on the weekends. PCO Brook in Lakeville, Mass. $42 on the weekdays, $57 on weekends. Country Club of Halifax. No rates posted, but I've got a pretty good idea. It's a good value as far as what I remember paying. You might pay around $70 on the weekends to play. Crosswinds, a little bit higher on the weekends than these other places, but $67 to walk on the weekdays, $89 on the weekends. Exceptional golf, 27 holes. Crosswinds is great. Atlantic Country Club in Plymouth, Mass. $58 on the weekdays, $68 on the weekends. Blissful Meadows, Uxbridge, Mass. Weekdays, $42. Weekends, $60. Cape Cod Country Club to wrap it up in Falmouth, Massachusetts. $52 on the weekdays, $68 on the weekends. As usual, these rates can change. They might be a little different. Again, it is the middle of February, but that is the wrap up of these bang for your buck golf courses, all south of the city, maybe a little bit west if you want to bring Uxbridge into the west instead of south of the city. But a place I liked a lot, so I wanted to throw it on here. It will be on some other lists as well. And that's it for this episode. Again, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, please subscribe, rate, review. Any words help, any ratings help. So appreciate that. And then go to YouTube as well if you want to see some pictures and videos of some of these places that I have talked about. They will be in there this week. And you can also subscribe there to get all of the podcasts on YouTube if that's your jam. So thanks again. We will see you next week with another episode. Thanks for subscribing, liking, and all that stuff. My newsletter has all of this in one place every Friday. Once again, that is baystategolf.beehive, BEEHIIV.com. Subscribe there. Get out all in one place. Help me grow that newsletter list. And until next time, thanks for listening.